Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Because today is Gopastami, we are reading from the 10th canto, chapter 15, the killing of Dhenuka, the ass demon, text 1. And this chapter of Bhagavatam introduces Krishna into his Bhoganda leela. He's left the childhood phase of Balya, and now he's in Bhoganda. And the shift means that he is now able, according to his parents, Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj, Krishna is now able to herd the cows. Of course, Krishna is always able, but this is pastime. Tatascha Palganda Vayashrato Vraje.
Tatascha Palganda Vayashrato Vraje.
Babhuvatusta Pashupala Sammatau.
Babhuvatusta Pashupala Sammatau.
Gascharayanto Sakibhi Samampadai.
Gascharayanto Sakibhi Samampadai.
Vrindavanam Punya Ativa Chakratu.
Vrindavanam Punya Ativa Chakratu.
Tatascha Palganda Vayashrato Vraje.
Tatascha Palganda Vayashrato Vraje.
Babhuvatusto Pashupala Sammatau.
Babhuvatusto Pashupala Sammatau.
Gascharayanto Sakibhi Samampadai.
Gascharayanto Sakibhi Samampadai.
Vrindavanam Punyam Ativa Chakratu.
Vrindavanam Punyam Ativa Chakratu.
Tatascha Palganda Vayashrato Vraje.
Tatascha Palganda Vayashrato Vraje.
Babhuvatusto Pashupala Sammatau.
Babhuvatusto Pashupala Sammatau.
Gascharayanto Sakibhi Samampadai.
Gascharayanto Sakibhi Samampadai.
Vrindavanam Punyamativa Chakratu.
Vrindavanam Punyamativa Chakratu.
Tatascha Chaubanda Vayashrato Vraje.
Tatascha Palganda Vayashrato Vraje.
Babhuvatusto Pashupala Sammatau.
Babhuvatusto Pashupala Sammatau.
Gascharayanto Sakibhi Samampadai.
Gascharayanto Sakibhi Samampadai.
Vrindavanam Punyamativa Chakratu.
Vrindavanam Punyamativa Chakratu.
Tatascha Palganda Vayashrato Vraje.
Tatascha Palganda Vayashrato Vraje.
Babhuvatusto Pashupala Sammatau.
Babhuvatusto Pashupala Sammatau.
Gascharayanto Sakibhi Samampadai.
Gascharayanto Sakibhi Samampadai.
Vrindavanam Punyamativa Chakratu.
Vrindavanam Punyamativa Chakratu.
Tatascha Palganda Vayashrato Vraje.
Tatascha Palganda Vayashrato Vraje.
Babhuvatusto Pashupala Sammatau.
Babhuvatusto Pashupala Sammatau.
Gascharayanto Sakibhi Samampadai.
Gascharayanto Sakibhi Samampadai.
Vrindavanam Punyamativa Chakratu.
Vrindavanam Punyamativa Chakratu.
Vaishnavis.
Tatascha Palganda Vayashrato Vraje.
ततश्च पौगण्डवयस्थितौ व्रजे बहुवतस्थौ पशुपालसम्मतौ गच्छारयन्तौ सखिभिः समं पदे वृन्दावनं पुण्यमतीव चक्रतु ततश्च पौगण्डवयस्थितौ व्रजे बहुवतस्थौ पशुपालसम्मतौ गच्छारयन्तौ सखिभिः समं पदे वृन्दावनं पुण्यमतीव चक्रतु
Sri Shukovacha.
Sri Shukovacha.
Sri Sukadev Goswami said.
Sri Sukadeva Goswami said.
Tata.
Tata.
Then. Cha. And. Paugandavaya.
Paugandavaya.
The age of Pauganda.
The age of Pauganda.
Years 6 to 10.
Years 6 to 10.
Shratau. Attaining.
Attaining.
Braje. In Vrindavan.
In Vrindavan.
Babuvatu.
Babuvatu.
They. Rama and Krishna.
Rama and Krishna.
Became.
Tau.
The two of them.
The two of them.
Pashupala.
Pashupala.
As cowherds.
As cowherds.
Samatau.
Samatau.
Appointed.
Appointed.
Ga.
Ga.
The cows.
Cows.
Charayanto.
Charayanto.
Tending.
Tending.
Sakibi Samam.
Sakibi Samam.
Along with their friends.
Along with their friends.
Padai.
Padai.
With the marks of their feet.
With the marks of their feet.
Vrindavanam.
Vrindavanam.
Shri Vrindavan.
Shri Vrindavan.
Punyam.
Punyam.
Auspicious.
Auspicious.
Ativa.
Ativa.
Extremely.
Extremely.
Chakratu.
Chakratu.
They made.
They made.
Translation. Shukadev Goswami said, when Lord Rama and Lord Krishna attained the age of Pauganda, 6 to 10, while living in Vrindavan, the cowherd men allowed them to take up the task of tending the cows. Engaging thus in the company of their friends, the two boys rendered the land of Vrindavan most auspicious by imprinting upon it the marks of their lotus feet. Purport. Lord Krishna wanted to encourage his cowherd boyfriends who had been swallowed by Aghasura and then stolen by Lord Brahma. Therefore, the Lord decided to bring them into the palm tree forest called Vrindavan, where there were many delicious ripe fruits. Since Lord Krishna's spiritual body had apparently grown slightly in age and strength, the senior men of Vrindavan, headed by Nanda Maharaj, decided to promote Krishna from the task of herding cows to the status of a regular cowherd boy. He would now take care of the full-grown cows, bulls, and oxen. Out of great affection, Nanda Maharaj had previously considered Krishna too small and immature to take care of the full-grown cows and bulls. It is stated in the Kartika Mahatmya section of the Padma Purana, Shuklashtami Kartike 2, Smita Gopastami Budai, Taddinan Vasudevo Bud, Gopa Purvam Tuvatsapa. The 8th lunar day of the bright fortnight of the month of Kartik is known by authorities as Gopastami. From that day, Lord Vasudeva served as a cowherd, whereas previously he had tended the calves. The word Padai indicates that Lord Krishna blessed the earth by walking on her surface with his lotus feet. The Lord wore no shoes or other foot gear, but walked barefoot in the forest, giving great anxiety to the girls of Vrindavan, who feared that his soft lotus feet would be injured. Translation again. Shukadeva Goswami said, when Lord Rama and Lord Krishna attained the age of Balganda, 6 to 10, while living in Vrindavan, the cowherd men allowed them to take up the task of tending the cows. Engaging thus in the company of their friends, the two boys rendered the land of Vrindavan most auspicious by imprinting upon it the marks of their lotus feet. Om Gyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So as I said, today is Gopastami. What is the significance of this day? Does Krishna's body grow materially? Now Nanda Maharaj, Krishna's father, doesn't believe or doesn't think that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is sure that Krishna is my son and I must care for him, protect him, nourish him. So therefore, before the age of 6, Nanda Maharaj would not let Krishna herd the cows. He considered Krishna's body not strong enough. He considered Krishna's body to be too soft and delicate. Now, Krishna has no material body, just as we were discussing the other day. Namam Ishvaram Satchidananda Rupam. Krishna has a form of eternity, knowledge, and bliss. And we discussed the other day, Lasa Kundalam, how Krishna's shark-shaped earrings hanging from his ears are made beautiful by Krishna's body, not the reverse. We discussed, remember, how Krishna is the ornament of his ornaments. So it's the nature of a material body to go through the 6 phases: birth, growth, maintenance, creating offspring, declining, and then death. Sadvikar, the 6 transformations. Is this what's happening with Krishna? No, Krishna's transcendental form is developing in response to the desires of devotees to love him in a certain way. So during his Kumar stage, or Palya stage of infancy, before the age of 6, this phase of Krishna's body is especially meant for reciprocating love in Vatsalya Prem, parental love, with Yashoda, Rohini, Nanda Maharaj. But now he's entering the phase of Balganda, between the ages of 6 and 10, which is especially meant, at that time, his form is especially meant, not exclusively, but especially meant for giving pleasure to his cowherd boyfriends, the Gopas. And then after the age of 10 to 16, of course, Krishna never ages past a young teenager. But when he enters that stage of Kishore, young teenager, that's especially meant for reciprocating with the gopis. So Krishna's apparent changing of form from babyhood to young teenager, this is all spiritual. And all the transformations are just meant to reciprocate with devotees' love, to facilitate the love of devotees. So in that Gomar stage, before Gopastami, Nanda Maharaj, as we said, would not even consider Krishna taking care of the cows. But when Krishna turns 6 years old, then things change. So Kavi Karnapur in Ananda Vrindavan Jambu talks about how when Krishna entered his Palganda stage, Nanda Maharaj says to Yashoda Mai, "It's time for our boy to have his own room." And what does Mother Yashoda say? He was just born a few days ago. He's still on my lap. How can he have his own room? So Nanda Maharaj reminds her, he's a bit older than a few days. You've nurtured him very nicely, but it's time for him to have his own room. So Mother Yashoda agreed by not replying. She was always worried, Kavi Karnapur points out. How can Krishna take care of cows? Isn't it work? I don't want my boy working. But Krishna protested. I love taking care of cows. So in this way, Krishna convinces Mother Yashoda. Nanda Maharaj was convinced only when Krishna became 6 years old. At that time, as you're hearing in the purport today, Krishna would walk barefoot in the forest with his cowherd boyfriends. He would walk with Balaram. Now, up until this age, and remember, it's not a material age, up until this age of Krishna's, he would walk barefoot, but the imprints of the 21 symbols on his lotus feet would be very faint, because this is Krishna's pastime of going from babyhood to boyhood. I'm a baby, so when I walk on the ground, my feet are very small and soft, and so the footprints are not so pronounced. But now I'm 6 years old, and the footprints can be there for everyone to see, because my feet are more developed. But that development is not material. You always have to keep that in mind. Satchidananda Rupa, the form of eternity, full knowledge and bliss. So now, all over Vrindavan, as Krishna attains 6 years of age, all over Braj you can see Krishna's footprints, Balaram's footprints. And these footprints are worshipable by everyone. That's why in the leela of dancing on the head of Kaliya, when the residents of Vrindavan realize that something is wrong, when they heard, by seeing so many omens in the sky and on the land was trembling, their bodies, left side of their body was shaking, all kinds of inauspicious symptoms. Where is Krishna? Oh no, Krishna has gone to the Yamuna without Balaram. What's happening? So how did they find Krishna? They followed his footprints to the bank of the Yamuna. So this is before they got to the Yamuna and they saw Krishna in the grip of Kaliya. By following his footprints, they could find him. Now, there's so many cows, thousands upon thousands of cows in Braj, buffaloes, so many other creatures. How were Krishna's footprints preserved? But that is the way of Braj, that everyone, even the buffaloes and the cows, they know, don't tread on Krishna's footprints. So that's how the Brijbasis found out that Krishna is in the Yamuna River. They followed his footprints, and they got to the bank of the Yamuna, and they saw that devastating sight, Krishna caught in the coils of Kaliya. And of course in Damodar Leela, When Krishna is angry, his mother was feeding him, staring into his beautiful face, as we discussed the other night. And she puts Krishna down because the milk on the stove is boiling over. That milk is meant for Krishna's pleasure. Everything in her house is 100% meant for Krishna's pleasure. One devotee was asking me this morning, what about attachment for my son? How to deal with this intense family attachment? So I said, family attachment is fine when used in Krishna's service. Just like Kunti and the Pandavas. So Mother Yashoda, everything in her house is meant for Krishna's pleasure. And we discussed how she had arranged to get special milk to make it to butter and other milk products. Because she's thinking, my little boy is always sneaking into others' houses and stealing butter. What's wrong with the milk products in my home? So Nanda Maharaj, remember, had thousands upon thousands of cows, which are all special. But amongst those multi-thousands of cows, there were some that were super special. And they gave milk that was especially unique and flavorful. So Mother Yashoda carefully got milk from those very special cows. And that's what she was boiling on the stove. She wouldn't even let her maidservants, because normally her maidservants would do such tasks. But Mother Yashoda was convinced, I have to make these milk products myself, so I can be sure that they are the topmost quality, and in that way my son will stop breaking into people's houses and stealing milk and butter and yogurt, giving it to the monkeys. So that's why she suddenly put Krishna down. And remember, we discussed, because you would think, why couldn't she? Mothers know. You hold the child to you and then you get up and do something else. But Mother Yashoda knew, I have to quickly get to the stove. If I carry Krishna, I'll be slow. So therefore she put him down and raced to the stove. And took care of the milk boiling over, but Krishna didn't see things in that way. He didn't feel he was finished drinking his mother's breast milk. So what did he do? He was angry. He made a temper tantrum. So much so that he bit his lip. Have you ever done that? Been so angry you bite your lip? What happened?
Mother scolded.
Huh?
Mom scolded us.
Your mother scolded you, you got angry and bit your lip. So that's what Krishna did. But he did more than that also. He took a sharp-edged stone, and he broke the yogurt pot. So the contents spilled out all over the floor. You've done something like that? I remember once, the material culture in many countries has this habit of celebrating Easter with jelly beans. Do they do that in Australia?
Eggs is correct.
What about jelly beans? No, they're not. You know what they are?
Yes.
Yes. So my mother, for the Easter celebration, brought a big bag of jelly beans. And so she was very happy. My children will have nice jelly beans for Easter Sunday. And so a few days before Easter, we kids, there were 4 of us, decided to have a jelly bean fight while Mother was at work. So we broke into the big bag of jelly beans and started throwing them around. It was a big fun fight all over the house. We finished off the whole bag in that way. There were jelly beans everywhere on the first floor, second floor. And then Mother comes home from work and she sees jelly beans everywhere on the floor, on the furniture, upstairs, downstairs, and I'll never forget, she just sat down on the couch and cried. I'm trying to please my children, and this is what they've done. I worked so hard to give them the best, and now they made a mess in the house. I come home from work, and now I have to clean it, and no more jelly beans. They're all over the place. I'll never forget that. She just sat down on the couch and cried. We felt very bad. So, Krishna was angry, and he broke the butter pot because his mother was churning the yogurt into butter. And so it's a rod, and then there's a pot at the bottom with the yogurt in it. So when she went to the stove, Krishna took a small stone that was sharp edged and broke the butter pot. The contents leaked all over the floor. And then Krishna went into another room to steal butter and feed it to the monkeys. So Mother Yashoda came from the stove and, where's Krishna? And then she sees the butter, the yogurt, which hadn't yet solidified into butter. The yogurt had spread all over the floor. How did she find Krishna? She followed, this is detective work in Vrindavan. She followed his butter-smeared, his yogurt-smeared footprints. So footprints are very important. And now that Krishna's entered the Poganda phase, his footprints they're very distinct. They can be distinctly seen, all the 21 symbols. So this is a very significant day because Krishna always wanted to herd the cows, but out of affection, his father, Nanda Maharaj, considered his body too weak, too soft. But now Krishna and Balaram have graduated, and they can go to the forest. And in the forest with the cows, they have such pleasure. You'll hear about how the forest of Vrindavan gives pleasure to all the 5 senses. So the forest of Vrindavan exists simply for Krishna's pleasure. The 12 forests of Vrindavan have unique abilities. They can change their topography, how they look, the hills, the valleys, the rivers, the trees. They can change how they look to fit Krishna's pastimes. Each forest can change individually, and sometimes, this is described by Kavi Kanapur, sometimes all 12 forests change simultaneously. All to fit Krishna's pastimes. So in some forests, there's one of 6 seasons: winter, spring, summer, fall, monsoon, and dewy season. There are 6 forests, and in one of those 6 forests, you'll find one of those 6 seasons. And then in 3 more forests, you'll find that there are 2 seasons simultaneously. That makes 9 forests. And then in the 10th forest, all the seasons are happening simultaneously. So this is all for Krishna's pleasure. So when Krishna enters the forest, he's known as Madhava. You'll find that in the next verse. Tan Madhavo Venum udirayan vrito. Desiring to enjoy pastimes, Lord Madhava, he entered the forest. He's known as Madhava because, number one, he is the husband of the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, in Vaikuntha. He's also known as Madhava because Madhava means spring. So whenever Krishna enters a forest, it can be springtime because he's Madhava. And also, Madhava is related to Madhu, the Madhu dynasty, and also the sweetness of Madhurya Rasa. So for all those reasons, Krishna is known as Madhava. So upon his entering the forest is presenting itself for Krishna's pleasure. Krishna and Balaram are playing their flutes, buffalo horns, letting everyone in the forest know we've come to enliven you. Just by the sounds of Krishna's flutes, buffalo horn, everyone in the forest, all the creatures, the deer, the bees, everyone knows Krishna is coming. They're so enlivened. And the forest shows its best for Krishna's pleasure. It shows for the eyes the beauty of the lotus flowers. The forest in Vrindavan shows for the ears the sounds of bees buzzing and the melodious sounds of birds and deer. It shows for the nose the fragrance coming from the lotus flower. And then for the sense of touch, the breezes are blowing in the forest, bringing droplets of moisture from the lakes. In this way, making a pleasing sense of touch for your skin. And what else? Taste. The breezes are loaded with the taste, the sweet taste of the lakes and the rivers. So all the five senses are pleased by the Vrindavan forest, which exists for Krishna's pleasure. Now, we discussed a few days ago what is real wealth. You have to understand what is real wealth in order to appreciate why Mother Yashoda was so careful about the milk on the stove. Real wealth means land, cows, grains. So Mother Yashoda is thinking, I have to put my child down because my little child doesn't understand his wealth that's on the stove boiling over. You would think, what's the big deal about some boiled milk that's boiling over? But Mother Yashoda knows this is gold. So we discussed the value of milk in a real human society, the value of cows. How, after Krishna has taken his so-called birth, Nanda Maharaj stages an extraordinary festival, Nandotsava, the day after Janmashtami. And remember what the Brijbasis are doing? Who remembers? They're throwing milk and butter and yogurt at each other. Have you ever tried that here? People will think you're crazy. This is food. How can you throw it away like that? But the Brijbasis were doing that because they had so much milk, so much butter, so much yogurt, and they're throwing it at each other, and the ground is becoming saturated with milk products, and the ground becomes so slippery. They're indicating this is the joy of a real human civilization. Just by protecting cows, all of society can change. Your consciousness, your vision of what is prosperity has to completely change. Right now, economic prosperity is based on cut the cow's throat. It's the cheapest way. Take the milk when the cow's production of milk goes down, kill the cow, eat the flesh. Brilliant. In this way, society sets itself up for such destruction by material nature, by wars. And then we discussed about Nanda Maharaj going to Mathura to pay the taxes to King Kamsa. Remember? We discussed how you could not do that with the ATO. Have some yogurt. So I want to emphasize the point that real prosperity is land, cows, grains, milk products. And Nanda Maharaj, his cowherd village was full, unlimitedly, with all these real riches. So I don't know if you've thought about it before, how central to the Damodar leela is the milk. Krishna is drinking his mother's milk. His mother is preparing milk on the stove. Krishna is breaking yogurt pots. Krishna is stealing butter, feeding it to the monkeys. Milk products are so central. So naturally, of course, you're thinking, how do you become rich by milk products? We take it so cheaply because we don't know what real prosperity is based on. Our so-called economic prosperity in the Kali Yuga is boom and bust. When the economy is booming, everyone is happy, and then there's bust. Then everyone is angry. Throw the government out. But a real economy is about steady prosperity, which doesn't destroy the environment. Those who are accountants here? Yes. So what happens in evaluating what is progress today is false accounting, cookbooks. How is that? You add up your corporation's profits and losses, but you externalize all the damage that you're doing to the environment. That doesn't show up on the balance sheet. So in this way, no one can understand what is real progress. Oh look, our corporation made so much money. I was talking to my brother a few years ago. He's CEO practically of Toyota North America, and he was fined, Toyota North America was fined by the government $150 million for some violation. And so his attitude was, why are these politicians bothering us about pennies? 150 million, yeah, I signed the check. So I checked to see, well, how much cash reserves does Toyota North America have? Cash reserves, 51 billion.
Whoa.
So I said, why do they bother you have $150 million? Wasting my time, these politicians. Yeah, I signed the check. Get out of my hair. So that's the way wealth is considered today. You're not looking at the effects upon the environment. That doesn't show up on the balance sheet. So you externalize all that. That's got nothing to do with our profit and loss. We're destroying nature, but what's the problem? Let someone else worry about that. Let future generations worry about it. This is called intergenerational tyranny. The present generation of adults destroys nature and then says, the next generation will sort it out. The next generation, they'll come up with creative solutions. Meanwhile, we take the profits. But you don't understand that you're losing by destroying your own habitat. Just like recently, the USA had 2 major hurricanes. And so they haven't decided yet the total damage, how much it's worth. It's anywhere between 150 and $250 billion. So nature is retaliating. You don't know what real wealth is. You're destroying your real wealth and destroying the land, the cows. So this way nature provides devastations. Simultaneously, nuclear weapons are there, ready to inflict another kind of devastation. So this is what the so-called advanced human society is really capable of, destroying itself. But people don't care as long as they get some quick profits. Quick profits, everything quick. That's the nature of Kali Yuga. Quick sense gratification, quick profits, and everyone will be happy. Meanwhile, everyone is completely miserable. Last night we were discussing about this survey done in Australia. Very scientifically done survey in which people were asked the question, last week, how would you rate your mental health, your personal mental health? And 40% of the Australians replied, very poor. 40%. And the two main reasons they gave for describing their own mental health as very poor were work problems and money problems. I thought this is the lucky country. Obviously, there's a major problem. Yet, when people hear about Mother Yashoda boiling milk on the stove and the Brijbasis throwing milk and butter and yogurt at each other, people think, how exotic, how strange. But they don't understand. These people today don't understand. They are the strange ones. So we're celebrating Krishna being able to take care of the cows. He's always able to take care of everyone, all living entities. He's the supreme maintainer. But Nanda Maharaj thinks, this is my boy. I have to be very careful with him. Now he's 6 years old. All right. Now he can take care of the cows, the bulls, the oxen. Before that, no. And Mother Yashoda never thinks he's ready to take care of the cows. He was just born a few days ago. This is Vatsalya Prem, maternal love, parental love for Krishna. All right, any questions? Yes.
So it was a wonderful lecture. Just a couple of practical points about real wealth. So if on a practical level, if a grihastha who's trying to progress in devotional service looks at his garage and starts separating out the things he can use for Krishna and the things which are superfluous in order to simplify himself, is that the sort of mindset of starting to understand that everything should be used for Krishna and that turns it into real wealth like the milk? Would you say that?
Those little endeavors are nice, but all that comes automatically if you truly understand everything is Krishna's energy. And then, knowing everything is Krishna's energy, you become very careful how you use that energy. Things belong to someone. Energy belongs to someone. So the more Krishna conscious you are, the more careful you are about your possessions, your responsibilities, the energies that you're using, because all that belongs to Krishna. So that's the main adjustment that needs to be made. And then all the other little things will follow for someone who's actually Krishna conscious. The famous example given is Srila Prabhupada walking past a tap that was dripping water. Wasn't on an ISKCON property, but he just turned the tap off, turned it solidly so the water wouldn't drip. He's recognizing this is Krishna's energy, shouldn't be wasted. So we need to educate people that everything belongs to Krishna. That's getting to the root of the problem. Otherwise, simple environmental consciousness without Krishna consciousness will not work. Because people will just pollute their consciousness again. One very famous environmentalist in the USA. He was advisor to presidents. He was in charge of UN development. He was for 12 years dean of the Yale School of Environment, which is the oldest environmental school in the USA. He was the founder of the environmental defense movement. Lawyers organized to have nature as their client and defend nature in court. He did all that, and now he's in his 80s, and he said, looking back, I can see I made a mistake. I used to think the real problems are biodiversity loss, climate change, sea level rise. No, the real problems are greed. And he said, we scientists don't know how to deal with that. So now he's calling on the spiritual people. You've got to do something. You've got to cause a transformation. Because the whole environmental problem is coming from greed and lust. And we scientists don't know how to handle that. He said, this is my conclusion after 60 years of fighting for the environment. We've gone up the wrong road. Anything else? Yes, what's your question today?
So, it is stated that you can pray to Krishna in the mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance. So, how do you pray to Krishna in the mode of ignorance?
Where is it said this? Where is it said this?
I've heard it.
Oh. You pray to Krishna that you can engage in his service for his pleasure. You understand? Pray to Krishna that you can engage in his service for his pleasure. That's what you're doing when you chant Hare Krishna. You're praying, my dear Lord. You're praying to Radha and Krishna, actually. I'm your servant. Please let me serve you. You want to serve Krishna for Krishna's pleasure. Still, Bhagavatam says, Akama sarva kamava moksha kamu dharadi. Even if you have material desires, like Dhruva. Remember Dhruva? What did he want? Did he want Krishna's service? No. He wanted a kingdom bigger than anyone in his family. But Narada Muni said, all right, this is how you get it. you chant Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And then what did Dhruva Maharaj realize at the culmination? Swamin Kritatosmi Varandayache. I'm seeing you, my Lord. I don't need anything material. I just want association with your devotees. So you may start out with praying to Krishna for various material things. Right? Give me Lakshmi, Lakshmi, Lakshmi. And a house by the sea. Jai Jagadisha Hari. But you're considered auspicious because you're approaching Krishna, although you're approaching Krishna with childish desires. Still you're approaching Krishna, and that's to your great credit. Gradually, as the devotee becomes more purified, he or she realizes, let me approach Krishna simply for knowing how to please him for his pleasure. Okay?
Thank you.
But if you approach Krishna even for material reasons, still that's considered auspicious, but you're considered to be quite childish, even though you may be an adult. Very good question. Yes.
Thank you, Maharaj. You mentioned that Damodar Leela is also more important about the milk and yogurt, how that's taken the prime stand in the Leela. Apart from the milk and yogurt being, we use it for devotional service when we're serving Krishna because he likes it, what is the other representation of milk and butter? Because Krishna is also grown in Vrindavan with all this as the leela. In all his leelas, it's always either milk and butter. So
He's showing you what real wealth is, as I said. And he's showing you what real fun is. There's so much butter, why not steal some and give it to the monkeys? Look, I gave so much butter to the monkeys, they don't want it anymore. So what is the use of this butter? So yes, Vrindavan is purely spiritual, but there are also lessons for us for how to live a prosperous material life in the material world. Proper material life means using this temporary body for Krishna's pleasure. Using your family, it's temporary. Mother is very attached to her son, but who was the son's mother in the previous life? And who will be the son's mother in the next life? You know this is there in 6th canto, Chitraketu. But use all these temporary attachments for Krishna's pleasure. Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Maharaj, earlier you were explaining that how Nanda Maharaj was kind of deciding that Krishna is not ready for...
Before the age of 6.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, maybe you can correct me the thought. Like materially for kids these days, or even spiritually, if you want to decide a standard, sometimes we are told that don't force the child or let them be ready. How do we, how do I deal with that situation? Like, okay, at least spiritually. Like if I want to set a standard that Sumulya must do this, or I think she's ready. But sometimes senior devotees, or they say don't force the child, maybe. So how do I?
From what I've seen in the Grihastha ashram, is that everyone has their own sampradaya. You should raise your kids like this. No, you should raise your kids like that. You should do like this. You should do like that. And it makes for nice discussion at the dinner table. Right? Why is that family doing like that? They don't know. So especially when it comes to raising children, I've noticed that everyone has their own parampara. And they have different desires. I want to educate, especially when it comes to Gurukula education. Oh, they come to ask me, Gurudev, Maharaj, what do you think is the best way to educate our child? This is a minefield. Everyone has their own different angles. Some parents want their child to be educated to be like Bill Gates. Yes, my son will be the next Bill Gates. Others, no, educate my son so that he will become Shukadev Goswami. Someone else, educate my son so he's Bill Gates and Shukadev Goswami. So this is part of the nectar of the Grihastha ashram. You can choose. The main thing is desire that you give your children the best chance to become Krishna conscious. But parents differ in how to go about that. I know in my mother, she was very strict. If you're going to live in this house, these are the rules you follow. Now, see, in the USA, there's no dole. There's no social benefit. So if you get kicked out of your house, you're on the street. So mother can say like that. As long as you're in this house, these are the rules you follow. And you have nowhere else to go. But I think here in Australia, if you're 17, you can get social benefit.
Yes.
Yeah. USA, you get nothing. So therefore the parents have some impact behind their threat. You're living in this house, you do what I say. The child is thinking, well, otherwise I'll be out on the street. So that was my mother's system. As long as you're living in this house, you'll do what I say. You will go to church on Sunday. You will say a Bible verse before eating dinner. That was a big battle when her children were teenagers. She always insisted, before the meal, you say a Bible verse. And by that time I was away at school. But my middle brother, he was rebellious. No, I will not do this nonsense. Religion is the tool of the oppressor. So there would be time for dinner, and my mother would, this is when I was visiting home from university, say, okay, children, come down for dinner. And so we knew what was going to come next. You have to sit down at the dinner table, and you have to say a Bible verse. My middle brother, he started his rebellion upstairs, and then on his way downstairs, singing political songs. Power to the people, power to the people, brown power to the brown people, yellow power to the yellow people. He thought he was a Marxist. But it was like those people in Calcutta, what they call Naxalites. He thought he was one of those. So then he would sit down at the dinner table. My mother would say, all right, say your verse. He would say, I'm not saying any of this colonized, oppressive doctrine. We want freedom. My mother would say your verse. No. And I would tell my brother, come on, just say something. So we can have to believe it. Just get on with the dinner. So then it came my turn. And I picked out the shortest verse in the Bible. 2 words. Jesus wept. So after a few days that my mother got angry and said, you can say any verse, but not that verse. So then I spent 4 hours searching the whole Bible for verses that had no spiritual meaning. And I found one. So then the next day, time for dinner, all right, say your verse. I said, and the water ran from the altar into the ditch. He was very angry. I said, it's a Bible verse. So she tried. That's all parents can do. You try your best. Different parents have different restrictions. So you do your best. But there'll always be different opinions amongst grihastas. But it's your responsibility. You brought the children into the world, so you have to do your best to raise them in bhakti. Right? All right, so time for me to go. I thank you all. We look forward to seeing you all for the magnificent temple opening. So today on Gopastami, remember the value of milk, and remember how much Krishna loves the cows. They're his pets. Actually, the real reason why we protect cows is not simply to get milk. It's because Krishna loves the cows. This is personalism. All right. Hare Krishna.